When we began, I was trying to help you find the premise of the Taker story. I told you that the Lever story has an entirely different premise. Yes, perhaps you're ready to articulate that premise now. I don't know. At the moment, I can't even think of the Taker premise. It'll come back to you. Every story is a working out of a premise. Yes, okay. The premise of the Taker story is the world belongs to man. I thought for a couple of minutes, then I laughed. It's almost too neat. The premise of the Lever story is man belongs to the world. Meaning what? Meaning, I barked a laugh, it's really too much. Go on. It means that right from the beginning, everything that ever lived belonged to the world, and that's how things came to be this way. Those single-celled creatures that swam in the ancient oceans belonged to the world, and because they did, everything that followed came into being. Those club-finned fish offshore of the continents belonged to the world, and because they did, the amphibians eventually came into being. And because the amphibians belonged to the world, the reptiles eventually came into being. And because the reptiles belonged to the world, the mammals eventually came into being. And because the mammals belonged to the world, the primates eventually came into being. And because the primates belonged to the world, Australopithecus eventually came into being. And because Australopithecus belonged to the world, man eventually came into being. And for 3 million years man belonged to the world, and because he belonged to the world, he grew and developed and became brighter and more dexterous, until one day he was so bright and dexterous that we had to call him Homo sapiens sapiens, which means that he was us. And that's the way the Levers lived for 3 million years, as if they belonged to the world. That's right, and that's how we came into being. Ishmael said, We know what happens if you take the Taker premise that the world belongs to man. Yes, that's a disaster. And what happens if you take the Lever premise that man belongs to the world? Then creation goes on forever. How does that sound? It has my vote.